What up, my fellow Knicks fans? This is your guy Marcellus Ease, and don't panic quite yet. Now, after everyone was thrown off about what happened in Boston, things settled down a bit and came back down to earth as the Knicks made their adjustments. The defense was looking right. Josh Hart was everywhere. Mikal Bridges got back to his spots, along with the starting unit having a nice balance of scoring from everyone. This then allowed Jalen Brunson to get to his versatile bag. But we'll touch base on a few of these concepts. I'm not going to say no more. Let's just get to it.
You know, the building is special because it's the last one left. You know, it's the Boston Garden, which I never played in the Forum. And then there's this building, and you know, this is the last one that holds all the memories and all the great players and coming up the elevator shaft and thinking about Willis Reed, thinking about Jerry West and all the great rivalries that they had in this building. And just makes it very special.
Alcohol, right?
So when it comes to Mikal Bridges, the talks around his shooting is a bit overblown. I said this in one of my group chats. We care about the team so much, it's almost like a newborn baby trying to walk. Of course, it's going to fall, but we just care so much, but it's part of the progress. But as the Knicks work through their progressions, we've seen small tweaks here and there. Mikal was actually allowed to get back in his mid-range game, very similar to what he did when he arrived in Brooklyn and before when he's in Phoenix. He's not afraid to attack closeouts, and he could hit teams off with floaters in the paint, fadeaways, step backs, off the dribble moves leading up to a pull-up. And the Knicks allow him to get into rhythm without trying to keep up with the trends of just being caught up in the copycat part of the league where teams try to compete and get the most three-point shot attempts that they can. So Mikal in the first half didn't even attempt a three-point shot, and that mid-range game allowed him to get into rhythm. So going up against the Pacers, I like how Thibs kind of mixed and matched the bench units. This time he went with OG and Mikal instead of Mikal and Towns with McBride and Cameron Payne and Sims. And for this very matchup, it allowed Bridges to kind of get into his bag. And just like as he did in Brooklyn, he can get to that mid-range game. Again, right here, Thibs mix and matches the bench units. Now we see instead of OG in the lineup, we get the remaining starters, Josh Hart and Mikal, alongside Miles, Sims, and Cameron Payne. So Thibs kind of mixed and matched this a little bit. And right here, this play seems so simple. A dribble handoff. But because Josh Hart on ball is still a threat, the defender's going to have a slight hesitation in case he fakes this and he goes downhill. These are sometimes the overlooked things about Josh Hart. He's not necessarily a crazy offensive threat, but him having the ball and just putting pressure on the defense, trying to protect the rim, that is a threat. So right here, it's going to be a slight hesitation from Obi in case this was faked. And in that slight hesitation, it's going to allow Mikal to attack Obi, the weaker defender, on the empty side. Working our way into the third quarter, Bridges gets to his spot. Nice little fadeaway on Tyrese, the weaker defender once again. Bridges at this point has not attempted a three-point shot, but he's definitely in rhythm. Now right here, Bridges squaring up for the post-up. Notice how Josh Hart now is making his run, clearing out the defender. And Brunson, the three-point threat, is making his way. And now Bridges can just do his thing as he draws the foul. So right here, we're seeing Thibs leave some room for Mikal Bridges with the offensive playbook. Instead of the usual, just go to the corner and wait till you get the ball to shoot a three. It's not like he's playing alongside LeBron James or Luka Doncic. That's kind of the trap that teams throughout the league fall for, where they get into that rabbit hole of just saying, hey, we have to get more three-point shot attempts up. They kind of pigeonhole some of their more talented role players into just standing in the corner, waiting and guessing when they're going to get a pass in order to shoot a three. Just giving Bridges the breathing space now to get in rhythm allows for the three-point shot to come much easier. And he got to it, especially when we seen the bop that he had on that dribble move into a three-point shot, talking shit to the Pacers bench. We see you, Bridges. We got you. But Bridges was definitely more aggressive, as right here, he just takes it in right away. I would say in the first game, and it's going to be like this in the first kind of quarter of the season, where guys don't want to step on each other's toes. And some of you fellas might remember I kind of mentioned this before when the Knicks had went up against the Grizzlies when Brunson had first arrived. You could tell RJ being that third overall pick by the franchise, mixed in with Julius Randle, kind of being the scoring leader after that most improved season that he had, along with Brunson being the new star being there. Guys didn't want to step on each other's toes, so that game looked kind of clunky. And even in the beginning of this first quarter, guys were kind of passive. But eventually, who's supposed to be doing what, it's all gonna kind of fall into place organically. But Bridges right here attacks right away. Leads into a nice fadeaway. Another dynamic with Bridges this season everyone should be paying close attention to is the pick and roll game with Karl Anthony Towns. It's going to open things up for that bench unit when them two are out there. And also when Brunson checks right back into the game, he can get into that catch and shoot role in which he displayed in at when he was with the Dallas Mavericks. Luka and KP, the pick and roll between them opened up a lot of opportunities for Brunson to get into that catch and shoot. And he can do that. That is part of his, I would say, arsenal of just having so many moves. We haven't seen too much of that in New York because the Knicks didn't really have the shooting personnel on the floor. But now that we're so spaced out and we play with much more pace, this is going to be very interesting to see how Brunson kind of open up a can of worms on these opponents. Just so many ways he can kill you. Here's a prime example of the Karl Anthony Towns and Bridges pick and roll with Brunson on the floor. TJ McConnell is compromised right here. Can't quite stunt in. And Bridges, he can attack. OG, in a way, he should have stayed in the corner, but a lot of different things can happen here. But Brunson, if he was parked out right here, this defender is completely compromised because there is a three-point threat. Here's some more example of the pick and roll with Towns. Now right here, notice how Turner almost hedges. He's like way up on this screen. Towns, in a way, he should have ghosted this. That's where we're really going to miss Hartenstein. Hartenstein would have ghosted it. Then Bridges would have gave it to him. And he's good at making decisions right here out of the high post on who to hit. If there's a cutter, you know, Brunson, OG in the corners. But Towns, this season, we're going to see, you know, how he makes the adjustments, how to read these picks, knowing when to ghost it. Because even though he is a center, throughout his career, this guy has really played a lot of minutes at power forward. I believe it's been like 2-3 years plus since he's actually played a lot of minutes at center. See no real advantage coming off the pick because in a way Towns should have ghosted it. But it's early. Again, we're looking at the chemistry between Town and Bridges with the starting unit being out there. Got everybody kind of clunked up on the other side. And these two right here, if they get their chemistry right on the pick and roll, whether it be that or it could be a dribble handoff, like a fake dribble handoff here, they can just kind of get this right. Towns knowing when to pop out, when to roll. Mikal knowing when to cut, because in a way, Towns, the chemistry he has to develop with Bridges, being a guy who can run pick and roll, is going to be way different than the chemistry between him and Brunson running pick and roll. Again, this play right here is not bad, but they're going to get this down packed. But there is so much potential between these two getting it right, just opening things up for OG, Brunson, and Josh Hart. Here's another example of it in the second preseason game. Off this pick right here, see Kuzma trailing. Now, Jordan Poole right here, he's compromised. Got the corner shooters, but Jordan Poole can't necessarily stunt in too much. And Towns is rolling, but he could also pop out. He could have camped out right here. But either way, you see Jordan Poole, any defender in his spot with Brunson right here is compromised. Because Brunson has this in his bag to just catch and shoot. And also, with Bridges going downhill, he gets into his mid-range bag anywhere from here. So on this play right here, pay attention to Karl Anthony Towns. This is another prime example of their chemistry not yet on point. Cameron Payne is in this corner right here. So it would make sense for Towns to set a screen right here so he can come down on the right side. But because Towns kind of switches and then he gets pickpocketed. So regardless, even if he drove, the screen would have been ineffective because Towns setting it on the wrong side. It's not like he rejects the screen or anything. There's less benefits going to this side because the defender's already in drop back coverage. You got OG not necessarily in his spot. The benefit would have been on this side to go downhill, compromise this defender here, whether the stunts in, clog up Mikal's driving lanes, and then leave Cameron Payne open. But it's a work in progress. Let's take a look at it again. Look how Towns comes in. Mikal's probably just looking at Towns the whole time, kind of a little distracted. Because it's a weird way he tries to set the screen. And also, Mikal could have compromised TJ McConnell by attacking the rim, him being the low man and a smaller defender. So the Knicks defense this season is going to have to carve out a brand new identity. And in their bounce back matchup against the Pacers, who didn't really shoot well from the field, I believe they shot 10% from 3 for the whole game. And at halftime only had 2 points from their top 3 perimeter players, which is crazy. But the Knicks communication and switching was more on point. Individual defensive performances by Josh Hart and OG Anunoby, as well as Karl Anthony Towns, contributed. And right away, as soon as the game started, you could tell the defensive rotations was going to be different. Look at Karl Anthony Towns hedges right away. And then everyone's going to begin to rotate. Check out OG right here. He does a great job. High instincts right here. Doesn't necessarily fully commit right here, as Miles Turner could have easily just baited him and then make the long pass to Pascal. But OG just waits, kind of sits on it, and disrupts the play. But very noticeable right away is Towns hedging instead of the typical drop back coverage that we've seen him play against the Boston Celtics. But I tell you what, Towns better be careful because the media and the fan base, they will tear him up a new asshole if he does not put out his best effort out there. This is definitely not Minnesota. You ever see one of these virus movies where the zombies itching to transfer the virus from one body to the next? That's sort of the Julius Randle hate train. Now that he's gone, they're itching just like those zombies to transfer that algorithm from one person to the next. So Towns got to be on his P's and Q's. You can see more of the defensive adjustments the Knicks made. They got Sims hedging right here. Normally he would play drop back coverage like he did in the last game, just like Karl Anthony Towns, but Tatum was able to go around that screen and just pull up on him. And now with him hedging like this, the roll man for the Pacers is not as well suited as the Celtics, because Tatum in situations like this, he would dump the ball off to the person on the high post and they would make the quick decision to get the ball out to the shooters on the weak side. But the Knicks defense right here, check out the recovery between Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges. They kind of get situated a lot faster, even though they gave up this 3 right here. But guys were definitely more attentive, and it was very noticeable right away. And here's the exact scenario of how it played out with the Boston Celtics. Sims, he hedges right on Tatum. So Tatum now, his job is to get the ball out to the roll man, Cornette, on the high post. And now Cornette, look at his decision making right here. For a second, he had Derek White open, but he chooses right here, Pritchard. So Celtics, man, they consistently got open looks throughout this whole game. Now right here, we're going to see a prime example of a team that loves to run with a bunch of cutters, play fast. They got guys who can shoot threes. Right here, this is supposed to be a screen on Towns after another screen for the pick and roll for McConnell to come down. But watch how it plays out. The screen on Towns doesn't happen. He ghosted. And meanwhile, the original guy who put the screen for McConnell, he's rolling right now. So OG right now kind of peeps it. And you're going to see how it plays out. But look at Towns also. See? The original screener is right here. So he's rolling right now. And then the guy who set the second screen, he ghosted and now he's popping out. So they're running multiple actions right here. So this is where communication is key. Sims and Bridges seem like they're in sync, but OG right here serving as the low man. He's recovered. So as guys kind of get in sync, the Knicks defense does get tested with multiple actions. As right here, We're going to see Kornet set a screen for Pritchard to come in. But Pritchard is really going through this screen to set another screen on McBride. And then when McBride tries to recover, Kornet's going to set another screen again. So this whole play right here is really for Derek White. We're going to see it play out. See Pritchard, he's setting the screen. And then Kornet is setting the screen on Bridges. And right now, Sims is in drop back coverage. So it's going to be hard for him to recover to the shooter. This is going to be quite an interesting build-up for this defense this season to see how they can, work on their chemistry. Because going up against teams like the Golden State Warriors, the Dallas Mavericks, Oklahoma City Thunder, the Phoenix Suns, these teams like to run multiple actions and they have multiple shooters. And of course, a duo of Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic out in Denver. This is going to be a nice year to see the Knicks' character development when it comes to their defense. Okay, so just looking at some extras about this defense. Knows how Towns is in a drop back. But this normally wouldn't work for the Celtics. This would work right here for the Pacers because Mikal is on Halliburton's heels. And Halliburton is not a player who likes to dribble the ball in tight spaces. So he's going to pick this up at some point. And also Turner ghosted this screen for the pop out. So Mikal wasn't completely caught on it. So he's right on Halliburton's heels. And Halliburton doesn't like to dribble in tight spaces. Notice how he quickly gives up his dribble. Josh Hart stunts in. And if you notice, Towns is pointing for Mikal to recover on Turner. Again, this defense is still developing. Guys are kind of getting their chemistry down. Mikal is not used to playing with a big in this type of coverage. And even for the rest of the Knicks team, this is a one hell of an adjustment to make defensively. Now, another thing that was very noticeable on this closeout right here is the verticality on the move by Anthony Towns. Look how he just completely gets beat. He doesn't really offer that much rim protection. And that plays exactly why OG serving as the low man and Bridges sometimes also serving as the low man, because these guys have great ability to block guys when they go up on the move. See right here, check out Bridges. We're going to see Bridges be part of that action. You see, even though that was all ball, he got called for the foul there. That verticality is what's supposed to back up Towns with the Knicks trading for him. Some of you fellas who understand who Karl Anthony Towns is on the defensive end probably wondered why the fuck did the Knicks get him. And I believe it's because of the backup of these two, especially Mikal. A lot of people don't realize he does have a long reach. Pause before you Harlem cats get in the comment section. I know how y'all be, but it is what it is. And he has great anticipation when dealing with centers in the post, especially around those elbows. There is a history of him blocking guys much bigger than him. It's crazy that his verticality while chasing guys down to get the block is better than Towns. But Towns, when players are on the move, going vertical, trying to recover and block guys, sort of like how Mitchell Robinson does, he's not good at that at all. But Thibs still has one hell of a job ahead of him. Right here, Towns in this pick and roll, drop back coverage. Brunson tries to recover. And just, they got a center who could shoot threes. This is a little bit way too open for my liking. The Pacers were cold throughout this whole game. They shot 10% from three. Kind of a reality check for this team who has a quote-unquote star that's more marketed as a star than what he really is. Tyrese put up donuts across the board, just having 0 points. I've never seen this for a quote-unquote superstar. But at the end of the day, the Pacers, they do have a play style in which this Knicks defense is going to have to make a lot of adjustments. A lot of off-ball movement, surrounded by a bunch of shooting. They have a stretch five in Turner. So this is a kind of roster where early on it's really good to judge the defense by what adjustments are they making. The Pacers still do play a modern style of basketball. But going back to Cat, just in this drop coverage right here, notice how this area that he has, while Cameron Payne makes the recovery, there's no pressure. Doesn't have an arm out, doesn't have an arm up. He's kind of lined up with his man, which is good, but there's no pressure right there. See this area? There's no pressure at all. And right now, his jumping ability as well as his hands are not quick enough to defend the alley pass. A play like this is where Mitch would be effective, just being right there to help out, in a similar setup as the Rudy Gobert role that Towns was with in Minnesota. The Knicks offense had a well-balanced attack. Pretty much everybody was in double digits but Mikal Bridges, even though he was hot from the field. And OG was trying to create for himself all throughout that first half. It's amazing to see because he will have the space in the breathing room to actually get into his offensive bag. And it's so unusual that at times it looks kind of awkward, but hey, he has the green light to do so. And Josh Hart almost had a double-double by half. He kept on pushing the pace and just putting pressure on the defense to protect the rim. And when you add Karl-Anthony Towns scoring into this equation and the spacing that he provides, it makes things a lot easier for Jalen Brunson. And it wouldn't shock me this season if he actually averaged more points per game and have a far better efficient season than he did last year. The way he was able to go to work last season with Dante DiVincenzo being his wingman and relying on the chemistry with Hartenstein on the pick and roll, you could only imagine how much he could really get into his bag this season. Brunson is set up this season to really exploit this spacing that the Knicks have. Look at Cat right here. He's going to ghost this screen and make his way downhill. Now, as he ghosts this screen, he could have set up a screen right here for Mikal to go around. Like multiple actions the Knicks can run this season because they do have the personnel. But look at Brunson. Just, catches Mathurin. Lovely. Brunson right here puts on a ton of moves on Naismith, just dribbling him into a screen rejection. And just look at his options that open up. You have OG and Tyrese is actually compromised here. He can't leave Mikal wide open. It's crazy when looking at this scenario and comparing it to the beginning of last season. We did not have the personnel for Brunson to have this much space to operate in the paint. Defenses would have easily had collapsed. Tyrese would have collapsed. This could have been RJ right here. We just didn't really have the threats from the corners for defenses to respect us. So they collapsed on Brunson all the time. Look where the big man is at today. This is night and day compared to how last season started. So in transition, we're seeing just some of the intangibles Josh Hart brings to the Knicks. Because right here, with this fake dribble handoff, he's still a threat. With some of the intangibles Josh Hart brings to the Knicks. Because right here, he is a threat if he gets this ball with the dribble handoff because he could just take it downhill. But the fact that he's in the starting unit, Brunson could use this to his advantage because he's going to use that threat to fake it and just go straight downhill. And that slight hesitation by Mathurin and Naismith gets Brunson this bucket. Look how much easier it is for Brunson. Now he on this pick and roll, if he gets the big to hedge on him, now he got Karl-Anthony Towns on the pop out. It's just way too easy, man. New options for Brunson now. Towns with the little shimmy. Now right here, even with Jericho Sims on the floor, things are still wide open for Brunson. As he perfectly takes it to the left. And Obi cannot stunt or commit too hard on this to leave Mikal wide open. And also, man, shout out to McBride. The development is real. McBride slowly becoming a threat from out here doesn't help. And he's able to draw the foul. When I tell you Brunson is a crafty motherfucker, man. He is crafty as hell. Check out Towns on the rescreen. He's going to reject it right here. He was never going to take that shit. There was no reason to take it. And look at the open space. You got OB, you got Mathurin down here. Yeah. And low key, if they stunted him too hard, he has options. Brunson is killing them from the paint so bad Now Indiana goes to the zone. The only issue here is that the Knicks now have forwards like OG Anunoby who can take the ball to the rack and finish. Also Mikal Bridges. He could put the ball on the ground, make a couple of dribble moves, hit a couple of fadeaways from the elbows, anywhere around the paint. So it's a different circumstance nowadays. As right here, Brunson finds OG. He's too big and strong and penetrates that zone in its weakest point, right there in the high post. And that zone defense used to kill us all the time. Right here, the Miami mixes man-to-man and 2-3 zone. Right here, Mitchell Robinson is not really a threat off the roll. And just the Knicks having limited three-point shooters. This is how you kill the zone. Josh Hart could attack the closeouts and attack this weak point in the zone. RJ is not as good of a finisher at the hoop. And he's not really good from the corners. So you already weaken that area. And Randle's really the only three-point threat. So look at Miami's defense as they adjust to Brunson. Again, kind of long gone are the days where teams could do this to us. The spacing right here is tight. We don't really have shooters. And pay attention also to Miami's back line as they adjust too. No real threat. And just leaves Brunson just to settle for a shot. Look at Mitch right here. Not really a threat on this roll. And Jimmy Butler is not going to respect RJ. So he's going to stunt in. Randle really is the only three-point threat. Grimes has been up and down in this series thus far. But look at Brunson. Look at the Miami Heat defense. Brunson has a man on his heels. And look at that. Once again, Butler is not respecting RJ. And Mitch is not a threat on the roll. Fast forward today. You could have Mikal Bridges, OG here, Cat on the pop out, and probably Josh Hart is right here, or he could try to backdoor his defender. It's way different. Right here, you're going to see Miami adjust to Brunson having the ball, and everybody's going to collapse on Brunson. Almost no respect. And look at Mitch. He's down low, but he's not a threat. They got the athletic Bam Adebayo right down here in case Brunson tries to lob it up. So that's not happening. And just look at the positioning. Look at Grimes right here. Look where Josh Hart is at. And look where Randle's at. Randle can't receive that pass. So the dynamics of today are quite different. And surprisingly, even back then, Brunson was still able to do his thing. But you see the degree of difficulty was just, it was out of this world. So looking at some ideal offensive possessions as Brunson right here. Ooh, that's nasty. He dribbled him right into that screen. But just seeing some ideal offensive possessions for the Knicks. This right here, this is a lovely possession. Cameron Payne could take it, and he has one more pass. But just having possessions where the ball movement is lovely, and the Knicks are always one extra pass away from making something happen. Towns right here has multiple options again if things don't open up for him. And when things start to trend and look this way, options continuously open up. The ball movement is on point. It kind of plays out to how things did last season when the Knicks had that stretch in January, up until that Miami game where Randle hurt his shoulder. The ball movement was excellent. The offense had like an endless flow. Everything was in sync. It sort of looks like how the Celtics played us in that first game. It's not just about the three-point shots, it's the quality of the three-point shots. As Jrue Holiday right here could easily have stepped into this and took this shot, but there's an extra pass available. Here's another example right here as Tatum completely ghosts his screen. Him ghosting it. Look at that. Creates more opportunities. Not only he's going to have the open shot, he's going to have an extra pass. Look at Derek White. He could have easily have baited Josh Hart in. This is a free-flowing offense right here. When the Knicks offense in a few months start looking like this, then you know things are starting to click in. See, another open shot right here. But wait. It's another open shot. Again, this should be familiar to us because we've seen it before last season in the month of January when OG just came through. The Knicks were flowing. Things were clicking. The Garden was rocking during that Heat game. Just for Randle to have that shoulder injury and it kind of threw a monkey wrench into the season and on the trajectory that the season was going in. And just being reminded of how Brunson used to operate, still putting up good numbers when he didn't have half the tools around him. No center to space the floor out. No wings that can not only attack closeouts, can shoot threes from the corners. I mean, this season, things are going to get sexy. We just got to be a little bit patient and just sort of let it play out. It's that fucking New York angst that we all have. And here's another example from this season of some ideal offense that we had. Mikal Bridges is going to set a flare screen, what it looks like, but he's really going to ghost it. And Brunson is supposed to come over and accept that flare screen. He's going to come right over into a fake dribble handoff from Towns. Takes it himself, and now we got options. Look at Mikal. This is ideal right here. Free flowing. It's just a little sneak peek of how things could possibly be looking like. So it is what it is. We got a long way to go. Just get rid of that New York anxiety and we'll be straight. It's going to be a fun season. So until next time, you fellas, stay safe. Peace.